In this video, we're going to take a look at Atramentis Document Green. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the Green Ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more, you could find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen. We get some shading going on in the extra fine. Just a few spots that are a little bit darker. The extra fine is a tad bit darker or lighter than the stub, while the medium's the same tone as the stub. The extra fine took 4 seconds to dry, while the medium took 6. Scrubby for both show us no color variation, but we do get a few darker spots that occur in the extra fine. And the smear test, I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then, a Sailor, my first pen with a medium fine nib, was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, but we do get some very minor ghosting. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is only a tad bit lighter than the stub, while the medium's the same tone. Extra fine took 7 seconds to dry and the medium took 10. Scrubby for both give us no color variation because there is none in the writing. In the smear test, you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see the telltale sign of a permanent ink in that it has the line above and below where the ink was first put down. It does start moving up and is thinning out very quickly as it moves, meaning it's joining with the paper quite quickly. The one on the right that's let dry for 10 minutes confirms that. All of that ink stays in place, none of it budges. We can expect a lot of resistance from this ink. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We get no bleeding, but we do get quite a bit of ghosting with the medium, the extra fine, and in the stub. We have no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. I say no shade, I take that back. The medium shows some in the he of the. Brown starts darker and gets a little lighter, while fox goes light to dark. So there is some, and this time it's in the medium. The extra fine is lighter than the stub, and the medium is darker than the extra fine and just a tad bit lighter than the stub. Extra fine took 5 seconds to dry, while the medium took 7. Scrubby for both do show a little bit of color variation far left to far right. It shows up in the medium, not so much the extra fine, and the smear test I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I feel very safe using this in a note-taking situation because it did not budge, which was not a surprise from the chromatography or what we see with the water that had no reaction whatsoever. Pen Flush had the most response with the ink on the paper in that it started to move some of the top layers, and that was about it. There's a ton still there. 1/3 bleach solution did nothing to move this ink, and I can feel where it was, but it's not moving the ink. Now, despite all of this, it only took water to get it out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia paper. I do this not to look at performance change, but more to look at tone change that happens to an ink when we use yellow paper. And really, this is a very opaque ink. I don't see any kind of tone change that happens for being on yellow paper. Not that the yellow paper for professional environment matters here, because we're talking about a green ink, but personally, I work on yellow paper quite a lot just to save my eyes. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. The Atramentis Document Green has a viscosity of 2.66, so it's normal. The next writing sample is done on Apica CD paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine's quite a bit lighter than the stub, while the medium's the same tone as the stub. The extra fine took 3 seconds to dry, while the medium took 4. The scrubby for both give us no color variation, and there is none, while the smear test says you could probably recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. The Atramentis Document Green has an average dry time of 7 seconds, so it's a very fast drying ink, great for students. The last writing sample is done on life paper. No bleeding. There is some minor ghosting. I don't think it even comes through on camera. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, a few spots of shading in the extra fine, 1 or 2 spots in the medium, none in the stub. Extra fine is much lighter than the stub, while the medium is basically the same tone as the stub. Extra fine took 3 seconds to dry, while the medium took 5. The scrubby for both give us no color variation, although we did get little spots of it in the writing. In the smear test, I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like the Atramentis Document Green, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went with a red ink because who doesn't like red with green? And I chose Pelikan 4001 Red. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of the Atramentis Document Green? This is a solid mid-tone green that has a dusty tone to it. It's super permanent, which is what you use it for. Really good for students to use in a lab book to avoid loss of notes in case of a spill. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? Because it really doesn't have very much standout shading, but its permanence is fantastic, which is the reason you really would use this ink. And it does have an ability to get deep into the paper, causing an excessive amount of ghosting. So to get all of that where we would want it best, I would go with a medium to dry flow fine pen. Perfect for note-taking that way. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Pilot's Mixable Blue Black.